Let's look once again at John chapter 2, verse 17. We discussed this last time. We were talking about the Zealous church, okay? Let me read this passage to you again. John 2:17. His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." Again, that word zeal is the same as jealous, or same word used for envy. And what that text is telling us is we should not just be gathering together. There should be some measure of zeal involved in what we are doing. And so, we look at our status as children of God, and we look at the three basic components because of some misunderstanding. And the basic components will be agape, number one, that is love. We have been learning that, of course, for quite some time. And then the second is fellowship or koinonia. And then the third one is pistis or faithfulness. And so those are the three basic components. Now, the question that we'll asked is this: what do we miss? What are we missing? Because for some people, a church is just going to a building and showing yourself. That is church. Well, you cannot go to church. You can go to a building, you can go to an assembly, but you cannot go to church. Because the moment you get born again, you are the church. You are part of the church. So you cannot possibly go to church. You attend assembly, you attend gathering, but you are part of the church. So, how come our feelings are not that strong regarding what the church is? Because, for example, if you say, well, I feel like, we can relate to our kids, I feel like my family ought to be headed towards this direction. If your family starts missing the direction, there will be some emotion involved. That's called zeal. You say, how come my family is not going in the way it should be going? Because all of us have dreams about our families. For example, if you have plans of a career, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a doctor, whatever your desire is, and then after being in school for so long, you're not graduating. Or after graduating, you don't have a job. I mean, there's got to be some kind of zeal. Your parents ought to be telling you, hey son, hey daughter, you have been out of school for some time. How come you have no job? That's zeal. If people don't care, then we're just playing games. Okay, now let's focus a little bit more on what we call as generational gaps. Because I heard a lot of talks and read a lot of articles and books on generational gaps. And we're talking about the old people, the teenagers, the children, the youth. Is there really such a thing as a biblical generational gap? I would like to ask that question. And so, what the church is looking at today, let's go back to our present time, is the rise of ungodliness in our midst. From last Sunday's teaching, the culture of faithlessness. And of course, this Sunday, I'm going to continue on that vein, but addressing a more specific issue. And that is in prayer. Do we really know what we are asking God for? For example, when you pray, Lord, I want this, do you really know what you're asking God for? Because when you ask God for something, there are corresponding works that accompany it. For example, if you say, well, Lord, I want to be rich. I want to be a millionaire. Well, you cannot just say, I want to be a millionaire and then sit down and watch TV. You can't say, well, Lord, I want to be a famous doctor. You can't be a famous doctor and then every time you take a course on medicine, you're failing it all the time. It's not going to work. Therefore, if you want to be, I want to be a famous singer or a very successful singer, well, you've got to practice every day. Tony Bennett was asked how come he was able to preserve that powerful voice of his at the age of, 80 or 90? He said, well, every day I have a routine. I practice my voice every day. He said, even when I was in war as a soldier, I practiced every day. And so there is a regular routine that he practiced that helped him push himself to be a very successful musician. Now, you can't say, I want to be a successful musician, and then sit down and eat ice cream all the time. It's not going to work, because at least I was told that ice cream or cold food like that ruins your voice. There has to be some discipline involved. And so, when we say we are asking God for something, what are we asking Him for? Are we ready to pay the price of what we are asking God for? And so, what do we miss? Or what are we missing? Again, we are looking today at ungodliness in our midst. By the way, including the church. The scandals in the church are so much that it's embarrassing. In fact, it's embarrassing some Christians to call themselves Christians. Because the scandals across the spectrum of Christianity it's just too much. And so you begin to ask, what's happening to our church? And then you couple it with this. The moment something happens, say the homosexual rise, some church leaders immediately, they say, okay na rin yan. Like, there's nothing to it. There's no zeal involved. For example, if you say, well, I want to look good in the gathering tonight. It's a formal attire. And so you put on your suit or your dress, and somebody noticed there's spots of dirt. You don't say, okay na rin yan. Gabi naman eh. And so nobody will notice. No, you will have to clean it up if you really want to look good and if you want to be noticed. And so there is some level of zeal involved there. So, first of all, as we look at the ungodliness in our midst, first, we are looking at generational gaps. Okay? We have the adult. Maybe you can add super adults, because the life expectancy had grown right now, and we have known that there are some people, I think the oldest died at the age of 118 or something like that in south side of Chicago, and so we have generational gaps. We have adults, we have youth, we have teens, and then not only that, we have the greatest generation, and then we have the baby boomers. After the baby boomers, some Filipinos who were born in the Philippines even claim to be baby boomers. My wife claims to be a baby boomer. Well, she's not, because that baby booming was coined after U.S. generations, not Filipino generations. So, no, your generation X, right? You're X. I'm boomer. Yeah, right? So she said we are one generation apart. Well, maybe I agree with that. I won't tell you how I agree with that, but Joseph knows. That's our secret, Joseph. But even Filipinos bought into that. That's not a Filipino classification. I mean, is there a Generation X in the Philippines? Are there millennials in the Philippines? They don't even know perhaps why it is. But we are copying the Americans who are saying we're Generation X. Generation X, the lost generation. Do you see anybody lost in the Philippines? Everybody is lost there, so everybody is Generation X. So what are you talking about? So we begin to publish books, and some people call themselves experts in these fields. And boy, it is, especially in the field of social science, books like that is selling like hotcakes. It's like people know what they're talking about. And then we start looking at the statistics. We say 30% of this will be this, and who's this? George Barna became very popular. Actually, he was not the first one. The first one was, I forgot his name. Maybe I'll remember later. But Barna copied him, and he started coming with these statistics. And boy, we are into statistics. 50% of this, 2% of Americans are atheists. Like we know what we're talking about. How do you know 2% of Americans are atheists? Well, we sampled 600 people. 600 people are representative of all America. We begin to be enamored with these things. And then, because the people are lost, we begin to look at the family tree. Everybody trace. Oh, I have a noble blood. What's a noble? I have a blue blood. What's that? If you're blue blood, you're sick, man. You know, it's gotta be red. And then people begin to say, well, what's that commercial? I'm 10% Irish. I'm how do you call that? Ancestry.com. And so maybe some of you sign up on that one to find out if you have royal blood or something. And we begin to to go into that. We are looking also at several secrets. Secret to a happy life. Don't buy those books. If it's a secret, how did they know? You know, it's the title itself is a lie. But we have a secret to success, and the person writing it is not even successful. You know, so you begin to wonder about these things, and then we are looking at all of those, and yet after having all of these experts, still we are not getting it right. So what are we missing? We are not actually looking at Jesus because the same situations that we are dealing with today. Read your history books. If you don't like to read your Bible, read your history books. Nothing changed. It's the same. You know. In fact, if something changed, there's more conscience perhaps in the old days than today. Our conscience now have shifted. Our conscience is now more sympathetic to trees and animals, less to humans. And our legislations prove that. So, how did Jesus deal with those things? For example, is adultery a new case? When did adultery begin? How can Adam and Eve commit adultery? There's nobody else. When did it begin? No, before Abraham. Who? Adam and Eve. You see, he said Adam and Eve. You know what I'm saying? That means when we talk about adultery, and people say, well, listen, you know, people have extramarital affairs today. They have tons of extramarital affairs before. When did homosexuality begin? Huh? When did it begin? I don't know. It just shows up right there, right? But they have homosexuality. When did bestiality begin? There was bestiality also in the ancient times, before the Old Testament. Part of their worship is into, they found it. In some of the figurines that they discovered, they found this. Did people have AIDS or HIV virus in the old days? Most probably yes. They just don't know how to call it, you know. I mean, for example, tuberculosis is looked upon in the Bible as consumption, something like that. You see, nothing is new. Ecclesiastes said, nothing is new under the sun. Do you believe the Bible? Well, it says that in my Bible, nothing is new under the sun, right? Is it in your Bible? Okay, let's establish that, okay? I'm going somewhere here. So, what is the problem? Well, let's talk about the adults, the youth, the children, the teens, okay? Because that's a big conversation today. So let's talk about that. Problems in the time of Jesus and the apostles, because we have to look at this answer, okay? Because this relates to the church. What are the problems in the times of Jesus and the apostles that they deal with? Number one, economic disparity. There's a big economic disparity in the Bible times. In fact, the richest in Jerusalem during that time is the priestly family. They became so corrupt, they became so rich. And I don't know if I'll be able to bring on to the remains of the house of Caiaphas. It's one of the richest house there was, the mosaic. Did you see it, John? No, you did not. I don't know what you did there. You know? Shopping? He was shopping for what? You know? But almost all of the northern side of Galilee, including the city of Magdala, is owned by the priestly family. You know, the reason why Jesus turned the table of money changers, that's a mafia. And the head is the high priest. It's controlled by the high priest. The money changers, the Western Union, it was controlled by the high priest. The, the seller of doves, there is a town there that they discovered, a city. It's underground, and they raise pigeons. It's controlled by the priest. The priestly family have percentage. And they're into everything. And so to become a high priest during that time, you had to pay Pilate because he was the governor. It was no longer God choosing. It's bribery of the highest kind. And so they're bribing the Romans, so they become high priests. It's like politics today. Yeah? So the apostles, the church, was dealing with the same situation that we are dealing with right now. You know, youthful lusts. Were there no naked women in the Bible? No, nobody's talking now. What do you think? There were, right? In fact, when who's that who danced before Herod? When Salome danced before Herod, it was actually a lewd dance. You know, it was the same as going to a club today where women dance naked and men dance naked. That's what it was. So they were dealing with the same sins. That and you have to remember, added to that, the clothing industry was not as advanced as ours. And they have that. So they have temptations in the areas of lust, wealth, and fame. Everybody wants to become famous. So is that the same temptation that we are having today? Okay. Political or governmental corruption. Man, you look at the trials of Jesus, the corruption is just too much. I mean, you read the corruption in the Bible, you're like reading the headlines today. Anywhere in the world, the kind of corruption in government is the same as before. And then wars resulting in death of youth and abuse of the youth. They send the youth also in wars during those times. The life expectancy was short, not because of food, because the food is pre-organic, but it's because of war and all kinds of disease that they cannot control. Oh, breakdown of families. The family breakdown is not lighter then than today. A husband can wake up in the morning, look at the wife and say, I don't like you anymore. They divorce. Yeah, they divorce. You know, why did Moses issue the certificate of divorce? Because of the hardness of the heart. So how did he issue the divorce? If he issued the divorce, because God did not approve that, right? Because in Malachi, it still says, I hate divorce. Read that. It says, if you read that, Moses doesn't like to issue the certificate of divorce. Why did he issue the certificate of divorce? He was forced. You read it again. Because of the hardness of their hearts. What does it? How do you know somebody's heart? How do you know your children are hard-headed? Huh? How do you know that your children are hard-headed? You keep repeating the same thing, they won't budge. That's how you know matigas ang ulo, di ba? Hey, take a shower. No, mahal ang tubig. We're saving money right now. You smell. Okay na lang yan. And so, sabi mo, ang tigas talaga ng ulo mo. O sige, magpabantot ka na dyan. And you just let him go. And so when the Bible talks about the hardness of heart of the Israelites, Moses is counseling them. Remember the biggest case he handled? So he was handling these cases. And he was actually telling them, you gotta reconcile. No, we don't want. No, we don't. Ang tigas ng ulo nyo. O sige na. And God says, I hate that. After Moses issued that, for the sake of keeping peace, God says, I hate that. How do you know God said, I hate that? It's in Malachi. God hates divorce. And God never changed. So after Moses started issuing certificates of divorce because of the hardness of their hearts, and remember, it was Moses. Nobody else issued a certificate of divorce to begin with. Why Moses? He was handling these cases. He was counseling these couples. I mean, if you ever counsel a couple and you say, come on, you can fix this, do the following things, and they refuse, you end up saying, well, you don't want to compromise, and you don't want, okay, go ahead, have a divorce. That's how Moses, and you have to remember, he was dealing with around 3 million people. Can you imagine how many couples he was counseling? And so he finally says, I'm tired. Go ahead. And God looked at that and said, I hate that, Moses. God hates divorce. You see? So, the message of the Bible then has to be focused on that. All and more of the problems sounds like the same problems that we face today. We are not facing different problems today. Now, let's look at biblical facts relative to what we have just discussed. Okay? These are simple facts. Now, when God, first of all, when God gave the law to Moses, including the 10 Commandments, there are no separate 10 Commandments for the adults, the youth, and the children. Is that a fact or not? Okay. Ay, wala namang, okay, 10 Commandments for the children. Because that's what Bible translators are doing today. They are rewriting these as if, like for example, I think in the Message Bible, it says, friends come and go in Proverbs. But actually, the other reasonable translation says, man with many friends has something like this and that, you know. So it was a badly mistranslation. But why is it that Eugene Peterson decided to come up with his own translation? Because he reckoned people could not understand their Bibles anymore. You know. That's why there are some translations that I read, but I really don't appreciate because it totally changed. Can you imagine right now we have a military Bible, we have a women's Bible. So Moses came from the mountain. Okay, here's the women 10 Commandments. Right? Do we have youth Bibles today? Moses went up again. It's the youth 10 Commandments. Oops, I forgot another age group. The adults. Oh, it's the adult 10 Commandments. Now, another fact is this. When the Jews gathered during the Sabbath to read the scriptures, who's present? The whole family. Did they separate the children? Huh? Well, was the congregation big? It was big. And there were no microphones. They did not separate them. Now, I'm not saying I'm against the separation. I am for the separations because I may totally lose all my hair if the children are here. But I'm just telling you facts. There are no separate 10 Commandments. There are no separate Bibles for the adult, youth, and children. Okay? Jesus did not have, you read your Bible, Jesus did not have a special sermon and teaching for the adult, the youth, and the children. There is none. Same teaching. Next, the message of the Bible is actually not just for one age group. It is for everyone. Do you agree with that? Okay. So, you will not find now, this is another interesting thing. You will not find in Proverbs a young man saying, a young man look at the old people and say, old people sit down and listen to my instruction. You will not find that. What you will find are parents, especially fathers, speaking to their sons, saying, son, listen to my instruction, give heed to your mother's teachings. You will never find a reverse. You will never find a young man saying, parents, sit down. You don't understand us. We have a generational gap. And so listen to what we are saying. You will never find that. But we already established to begin with That the same problems that we are facing today, they faced. Okay? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of the myth that developed through the years, I believe, because I've been squeezing my head over these issues, trying to look for possible solutions. So what does this mean? There is no such a thing in the Bible as a youth sermon or a children's sermon. I really don't know what happened, except perhaps we believe in experts today who are not actually experts. And we have made new species out of the youth and the children. We actually treat the youth as a different species. And sometimes, you know, I'm telling you, that's why I don't like psychology. The experts in psychology, almost all of them are crazy. And so I really don't listen to them. I really don't listen to them. But what I'm saying is, a lot of people now have presented themselves as experts, but the problems of our youth just increases. I mean, federal funding. Have you ever read of any report wherein government funding for the youth problems have decreased? They keep increasing. That means they're not really solving these things. So what I can establish then is this. We actually have been convinced and begin to believe in myths. What are these myths? That the young people or the children have, especially the young people, and some of us parents believe that. I don't, okay? We have believed that the youth have some kind of understandings that adults don't have. That is one of the biggest lies that I'm finally coming to terms have been spread. Mom, you don't understand. What is it that your mom don't understand? Mom, don't you understand? I'm in love. Is your mom married? Was she ever in love? How come now children had the audacity to say, Mom, you don't get it. I'm failing in my classes. Did you see the transcript of records of your mom? Or your dad? Maybe they were also failing in their classes. So there is a myth now that the adults don't understand the youth, and the youth has a different language. Well, wait a minute. So now if you go to school and say you take English 101, do you say English 101 for children? English 101 for youth? Is there a different grammar rule for adults and a different grammar rule for youth? What about math? Is there a different math for adults, different math for children? Now, listen, if the adults don't understand the youth, who teaches in our universities? Well, they don't understand the youth. How can they be teaching the youth then? We became selective. You see? Who are teaching our children in school? The adults also. Why? The youth has not finished anything. So how can they be teaching? And so we have very selective focus on these areas. And the most important thing, we are abandoning. Let me give you some argumentative questions, okay? I like doing this from time to time. Huh? Are the youth today ever the first youth to have ever walked the earth? Oh, you mean there were other youth before? Who is the oldest child that walked the earth? Huh? Adam and Eve. You know, they were full grown already, but 1 day old. It's a 1 day chicken, you know. It's good for balut or something. But they were the oldest children, you know. So, were the old people today, were they once upon a time young? Yeah, right? Very good. Okay. So the old people today, once upon a time, they were young, right? So therefore, do they understand what it means to be young? Okay, let's follow up on that one. Huh? If, if the old people today were once young, are the young people today once old? Ooh. You see, this is just basic reasoning. The young people today were never once old. The children today were never once old. Only the old ones like me were once young and once a child. So the children today and the youth, you keep giving me orders. Were we not barked orders also before? Yeah. I remember cooking for my kuya. If I don't wake up right away, he grabs my hair and pull me up just to wake up. Since I was in 4th grade, I'll wake up at 4 a.m. to prepare food for him because he's going to work. Yeah. I was in 4th grade during that time. Yeah. Has any of you youth, has anybody ever done that? You'll probably call 911 or something. It's called abuse. My parents would be in jail if that was abuse. But what I'm saying is, listen, let's open our heads a little bit. The old ones today were once young, but the young ones were never once old. Therefore, the young ones don't understand the old ones, but the old ones understand how it is to be youth. Right or wrong? Okay, so you agree, yeah? Okay. Now, did the old people today, I was very careful in writing these questions. I was really enjoying myself. So I want to read them. Did the old people today forget about their youth days once they got old? In fact, when we reminisce, yeah. Can you imagine the old people talking? Oh, ilan naging babae mo nung araw? I mean, they know that, right? They know these things. I'm not going to ask any of you. Maybe I'll ask Pastor Marshall when he was a rock musician. I mean, how many women, for example, chase Pastor Mars? By the way, you young men, has anybody ever asked you they want to have your child even if you're not married? Don't brag about this, a different society. You see? Huh? We're talking about experience and source of wisdom and guidance. Because we have to understand why is it that there is no separate Bible for the young people and the children when God gave the 10 Commandments. God did not tell Moses, write a different version, a children's version. No, it was given as is. And he was told, teach your children these words. Didn't say, water it down. So when the old remember their youth days, how do they react? Did they learn something from those days that they can pass on to the youth today? Look at the honest old people today. Anak, if I can only turn back the time, I should have chosen a better husband. I should have chosen a better wife. Huh? We say that. Now, why is it that our old people say that? Because the youth can't say that. The youth can't say, I should have chosen a better shoes. That's what they will say. Better pair of socks. But we old people, we can say that. You know. And so there's this wealth of experience that can be passed on. That's why wisdom is being passed on not from the youth to the adult, but from the adult to the youth. Is that a fair argument? Okay. I don't want to lose you guys, okay? Now, some people say, well, I'll just let my kids go through what I went through and see what happens. I mean, are we really that sadistic? That we want our children to go through what we went through that are negative? Say for example, if you are a female and you got pregnant before getting married, are you going to allow your daughter to, oh, let her get pregnant, she will learn. I learn. Well, what kind of a mother are you if you begin to say that? Or if you're a father, well, I made a couple of women pregnant before I found your mom. Maybe it's up to you to go through that. So you will know. No decent father will say that. We look at those past in tears. And we say, I wish. You know, one of the regrets that I hear from adults, I wish I had a parent. Yeah. I remember, I don't know if Joseph remember this. We were working out. I was on the bench, and I was trying to teach him something. Difficult to teach the youth now because they think they know everything. You know? But sometimes I want to throw some heavy weights on Joseph so that he will learn. You know? So, but this time he was trying to learn. And so there's this Hispanic guy just looking at us. And then after we finish one routine, he asked, is that your son? I said, yes. He said, I wish I had a father like that. And then he walked away and stopped working out. Yeah. But I never thought of it that way. My father did not teach me how to work out. I mean, there were no barbells in my province. We have coconut trees, you know, so what are you going to do? But it dawned on me, oh, he wanted instruction from his dad when he was young, but never had it. You see? Now remember, there's a lot of people who will try to teach you how to work out, but he said, I wish I have a dad like that. That means the fellowship. It's more than any of that. It's the fellowship. It's the time. Okay? So we know that we don't want our... I know, for example, as a father, that my kids will go through certain difficulties. Now, because I know they were going to go through certain difficulties, I want to prepare them. I never liked my wife doing the homework for my children. That's not right preparations. Why? Because one day, if Jesus tarry, we will die. So some parents, they bail out their kids when they make mistakes. I am not of that persuasion. I'm not of that persuasion because one day, if they get used to it, one day I will die. I mean, who will bail them out? They'll get so used to it. You think you are looking cute and good and you are helping your kids when actually you are cutting their legs off. And you're not teaching them how to stand upright on their own. You see? Now, I cherish every moment I spend with ordained old ministers. I do. I have a set. I don't like the new books right now pertaining to ministry because they were written by scholars who have never started churches. And these people are very young. I mean, sometimes you will find 29-year-old authors, 30-year-old authors teaching you how church growth. What do they know? You know, 30-year-old authors teaching you how to raise a good family. Sometimes you're 30 years old. You should be reading books about family, not writing them. Why? Because I know at 30 years old, you almost don't know anything yet. There's just honest to goodness. You know, so... but I cherish when you talk to Bishop Rael Larena about what he went through, the decisions he made. They are not written in books, but the way they share it, there's something to it that you know it's substantial. You know, if a person in the Bible school, I laugh at this. Some people go to the seminary, and then suddenly they went one semester or one year, and then they come, this is what we should do. I'm telling you, you just want to be polite, but I want to close my ears. What do you know? I always ask that question. But boy, when an old minister begin to talk to you and say, this is what you do. I've done that and made a mistake, and this is what works. You listen because it's coming from wisdom. It's not coming from suppositions. Maybe if we do this. Have you seen the old people talk, do this? What about it? No, just do this. And they will not even be upset, just do it. They know what works. You know. Like, by the way, of all the arguments of gay and lesbian, I'll tell you this. One thing that I'm guaranteeing you works, it's only a male and a female that can produce a baby. I don't care how wise you think you are. A man and a man will not produce a baby. They'll produce boogers, but not babies, you know. That's what they'll produce. That's established. There's no argument to that. And so can you imagine if everybody becomes gay and lesbian? Forget about population control. There will be no population. Plain and simple. These are some basic. So I love reading. Who's this? Jerry Sabel just wrote a legacy book. And boy, I enjoy reading that. What I learned from TL, what I learned from Oral, what he learned from all of these ministers. You listen, you read his book on what he learned. It's full of wisdom. But you find a 24-year-old kid writing a book, Rules of Ministry. Come on. You don't even know how it spells. Don't talk to me like that, you see. These are some of the issues that we need to realize. The amount of wisdom that is on those who age properly. Let's separate myths from facts and needs. Youth wants the company of fellow youth. I think we can establish that. But it is wrong to say that youth like others only because they are of the same age. You say, oh, cluster them on the same age category. That is a myth. What I found out is this. The younger ones actually want to sit down with older ones. Now, I want you to realize that. The younger ones, the thinking younger ones, the stupid ones, they don't. But the younger ones, the thinking younger ones, they really like to sit with older ones and learn. I mean, look, my kids are young. Joel, James, Joseph, John, DJ, even when they were young, they'll come to us and sit down, ask about our courtship. I don't know how many of them read our love letters. Yeah. How did you meet Mama? Our wedding tape is gone. I think that was the favorite show of John. Was it John? All of them. That's why I was thinking John will first get married, you know. But they ran that tape almost every day. And sometimes, wait. They loved it. Yeah. And they loved sitting down with us, growing up, and asking about these things. It's a myth when people say, oh, you cannot relate with me. Who told you that we cannot relate with the young people? We've been young. We know how to relate with them. We know the dangers. We can smell danger. We can smell trouble. That's why you see your young kids going out with people on drugs. You say, hey, you object. Why? You know the end to that relationship. With almost 100% certainty. You know what's going to happen. Because you have accumulated wisdom through the years. I hope that when today's youth, all of you young people, I hope that when you get old, you will not suffer the suffering of your parents. When you tell your parents, you cannot relate with us. But I'll tell you this, you reap what you sow. You will suffer the same thing. How do I know that? I've read the book. It says that nothing is new under the sun. You see? Because when we were young, sometimes in our solace, we tell ourselves, my parents can't understand us. Oh, but they do. They really do understand us. You know, like, I used to, my mother was just 6 said, did you do your homework? I was already in high school. She was still checking my homework. I used to review because she will beat me up if I don't review. And I says, you're checking my homework. You finished elementary. But you know why? Because my mother grew old in regret that she did not finish college. And so she knew, looking backward, I should have finished college. I should have given you a better life. That I learned. That's why I keep pushing. I'm not pushing them to finish college only. I want them to go to the doctoral level. Why? Because they're going to get old. I want them to have a career even when they're already 65 years old. Be professors or something. You know. That's a wisdom accumulated through the years. Why? I am not 15-year-old kids. I'm almost 57. I earned the right. And I've seen too many families broken and heartaches develop. Youth should never also hug the time with the other youth. Now, of course, I understand they'll be going out, but there is danger that sometimes because they don't know how to check each other. Is this right? Hey, they want us to taste marijuana. Is this right? And they will try to be smart. Oh, it's legal. No, I'm not asking whether it's legal. Divorce is legal. Is it right? Taking marijuana is legal. Is it right? But if you have an adult in the room who is really a true adult, you know, not those weirdos adults who are more addicted than the youth. The good adults will say, don't take that. I know it's legal, but don't go that way. You know, you will hurt people because you know you learned something. Consider this. When the older ones get old, don't you think they need to keep having companies also in their lives to keep them going? One of the problems I've seen today is this. We abandon the old ones. They lose the purpose for living. That's why even modern psychologist says, bring your grandkids to their grandparents. Not for the grandparents to raise them up or take care of them. Have a regular visit or let them live so that with you, so that there will be a continuous interaction, you know. Because when the older ones interact with the young ones, there is a rejuvenation of energy. But can you imagine if here's an old person going out on a movie with a teenager? What are we gonna watch? My kids choose the movies now. We're gonna watch the Avengers. I said, what? I watch movies and they fall asleep. Oh, but my kids love it. And then they talk about it when they go home. If I did not watch with them, there's nothing to talk about. So now, the youth says, well, you know, it's a waste of money. My old folks just slept. Let them sleep in the movie. Just take them. Because this is not the problem. You group the old ones with the old ones, what do? What do? No, nothing. They could not talk anymore. They don't even want to be with each other. Look at the nursing homes. They don't even want to interact. There's no challenge. Why? The old one says, I'm dying of cancer. Me too. Me too. Yeah. Did you eat beef today? Oh, I can no longer eat that stuff. I can only eat grass. You know, it's easy to digest. Boy, it's depressing. Listen to the youth talk. Did you try this? And they even laugh. I had diarrhea, in fact. You know, let's eat some more. You want? And so now the youth, the old ones are being forced to do something. And then the old ones are there with the youth, and they always give them advice. That should not be missed. Now, people should not be exclusive to their own age groups. God keeps company of all age groups. That's why He doesn't want to separate Bible for the adults, the youth, and the children. Now, of course, in our services, during communion, we allow the children to come up. But you know, we have, before we have services, it's mixed. Like for example, when we have presentations, we as a church should miss that. We should really have services wherein our children are with us. I am for children's church, I am for youth services, but we really have to have services wherein the children, do not say that children can't understand. My children understands. In fact, when my children were even in Sunday school, if the teacher says something that is a little bit amiss, my kids come to me and say, Papa, is this correct? You know, I think at one time they were talking about David and Bathsheba. And one of our Sunday school teachers says, I will not tell you the name. You know who you are. You can repent, okay? I think he says, well, in those days, that's the culture. And one of my kids says, Papa, this is what our Sunday school teacher says. I said, really? That's our culture? Where in the world did you get that? Did I run and correct that? No. They will learn. And I do some things to make sure that they will learn. But these are our kids can really understand. Huh? What we are doing is telling ourselves they can't understand because we are avoiding the responsibility of teaching them. Because if our kids can understand, then we have to teach them. Tomorrow we're going to have a strategic planning meeting here. Kids will be there except who's this boy? James and Joel. If they stay in the house, I will get up and tell James, we have a meeting. You are in charge and you have to feed your brother. And you know what? Whenever I say that, James does not feed Joel poison. No, he never did. He will actually, the moment they come to school, because my wife is very busy and I don't cook, or I don't know how to cook. Well, I know how to cook. They like my cooking. I just order, you know. James will actually ask Joel, what do you want? And he will prepare it. That's a kid. So when you begin to say, and by the way, he reads instruction on how to cook. Huh? That's a kid. If he can read instruction how to cook, which can poison somebody or give them diarrhea, why can they not instructions from the reading of the book? I think we have been sold a lot of myth by a lot of people who call themselves experts. I think we have to go back. We understand we need to have children's church and youth service and all of that. But I really, the more I think and meditate on this, I really don't see any problem why we can't have services wherein our whole family is together. In fact, that is even a chance for us to be able to teach our kids how to behave. I brought DJ, what was that meeting? Where were we? In Wisconsin. And because I'm a minister, I'm in front. And they give me a good seat. And Barry Tabb saw me and said, is that your daughter? I said, yeah, she was, you were in elementary, right? 7 years. She sat there. I'm telling you, a lot of the adults were more unruly than her. I didn't realize Barry Tabb was observing me. After the service, he told me, your daughter is one of the most behaved daughter I have ever seen. That is rare now. You know why she's behaved? She is my daughter. That's the real reason. I wouldn't allow my kids to misbehave. That's the real reason. Some of your kids throw a tantrum in public, not my kids. Ask them what will happen if they do that. They are my kids. They can understand. I think we are undermining the ability of our children to understand. That's why they are playing us. Okay, well.